My name is Jeff Morgan, and I'm here about the CPS issue. Jonathan, I read a little bit of your article today. It looks good. I'd like to talk with you more later on. Stephanie, thank you so much for inviting me to Austin in July. CPS issues. We've talked about children that have been killed, but one of the things that we don't talk about is families that have been victimized by CPS because of false allegations, and when CPS chooses not to be involved when they have knowledge of everything that's going on. I was one such person. I haven't seen my grandchildren now for a year and a half. I had to spend $18,000 in court fees. So I hope you guys really take this to heart. You just can't give money without reformation. It's like giving a drunk money without getting him cleaned up first. But the issue that I really want to ask you about as well, the Attorney General has on his website the importance of grandparents in the lives of their grandchildren. Yet Texas does not have anything like grandparents' rights. In fact, there are other states such as Michigan, Alabama, and Georgia that have passed them. And what I want to know is, what would you do as far as helping grandparents be involved in their grandchildren's lives? Because even as the Attorney General says, it's a very important role that we have to play in their lives.
I'll start off and tell you, I'm going down to Austin tomorrow to meet with the new director of CPS, who's a retired law enforcement officer who has a 10-point plan that on paper it looks good, but I want to see the whites of his eyes and talk to him and believe the plan he has. We got a lot of issues, and I think one of the biggest issues that we found through the committee hearings is that we have horribly high turnover, about 60% in the first 6 months at CPS, which causes, there's no good reason for a child to ever be harmed. But I think that CPS's poor decision-making oftentimes comes from a lack of experience and a lack of not knowing what the right thing is to do due to turnover. So that's one of the things that we're going to have to address this next session, and it will be addressed. It's been a pretty hot topic across the board, and you have a few members here who are on that committee. So grandparents' rights, I'm going to be perfectly honest and tell you I didn't know a whole lot about that, but if you bring that to us, we'd be glad to look at it and see if it's something that we can't assist with.
Well, from what I've heard proposed, Stephanie might be able to talk to this better, but I've heard that there's a movement to kind of bifurcate the social services process. Right now you've got social workers doing the investigation, doing some of the determination on the legal status and things. So what we might want to go to is law enforcement taking that first stage of the CPS process, because they're better equipped to know if the child needs to leave your presence, if they need to be taken away, or how long they need to be taken away. They're trained, they're educated more on that. So then after the law enforcement piece has done its job, and the social services piece comes in, and they get to handle what they're doing. Right now, social services is handling both of those. So I think that could cut down on a lot. Hopefully that unfair taking away of the children by having the law enforcement do that. As far as grandparents' rights, that's another one I sympathize with. We've had grandparents in our office talking about this, and it's tough. There's some horrible situations. Again, it's a delicate balance for me. I think the parents have the ultimate right to raise their kids, and sometimes when you have these grandparents in conflict with the parents, I tend to err and go on to the side of the parents. They may not be making good decisions, they may not be doing the best things for the child, but they're their parents. And so I think that's where that conflict comes in. We've got to be very sensitive to that. So I know it's very real, I know it's a struggle, and I can't imagine the situation that you're in. I don't know if the best public policy is to take rights and authority away from the parents to make some of those decisions. So that's where I'm on that.
We might have our first disagreement of the night. I'm very cautious about the militarization of CPS. I'm very nervous about adding a law enforcement element to the front of a CPS investigation. I understand what he's talking about. I know Matt's not taking a firm stance on it. The devil's in the details. However, the last thing I want to do is militarize CPS. I do not want any caseworker to walk into a situation with a predetermined idea of what this person may or may not be like, from a law enforcement standpoint. So for me, listen, a lot of these problems are just difficult to deal with. And the real answer is for us to all self-govern just a little bit better, frankly. And the churches get involved in these things. CPS and social work and all that stuff is just so nasty And when you really dive into it, it is depressing. We hear horror stories everywhere. It's the human element. Sin is in the world, and government is not going to fix this problem.
Roy Whitman, he did tell me he was going to come contact me back. This was on July the 12th. He has yet to do so. It wasn't until I got a hold of Senator Van Taylor that I actually got some response from CPS. This has been a long time coming. So Roy has not, in my opinion, kept his end of the bargain, which he should, my opinion.